October 27, 1962. Deep beneath the Caribbean, a Soviet submarine drifts in darkness. Above, American destroyers prowl the sea. One misread signal could unleash fire upon the Earth. Humanity is balanced on the edge of its own invention. Two men held the fate of civilization in their hands. Kennedy in Washington, Khrushchev in Moscow, rivals bound by fear. Their empires armed with enough nuclear fire to erase the planet many times over. A single flight shattered the illusion of safety. American reconnaissance photographed Soviet nuclear missiles rising from Cuban soil, warheads aimed directly at the United States. Inside the White House, fear turned to strategy. Could America strike first without igniting Armageddon? Every option led toward disaster. The president's calm became his country's only defense. Around the world, ordinary people read headlines that felt like prophecy. Shelters were stocked, prayers whispered. The word tomorrow began to sound uncertain. Soviet freighters steamed toward Cuba, each carrying the shadow of annihilation. American warships closed the ring, enforcing a blockade that could trigger war with a single shot. At the United Nations, words became weapons. Accusations flew across the chamber like artillery shells. Diplomats searched for language strong enough to prevent silence forever. In Moscow, Khrushchev drafted messages torn between pride and panic. He had placed missiles in Cuba to protect an ally and found himself threatening existence itself. American destroyers moved in closer. They carried orders to force Soviet submarines to surface. Below them waited captains with nuclear torpedoes and silence from home. In the steel belly of Submarine B-59, heat and fear rose together. The crew believed war had already begun. Two officers demanded permission to fire a nuclear weapon. One man refused. His name was Vasili Arkhipov. Alone, he denied the launch order. Protocol required agreement from all three officers. His calm hesitation kept the torpedo sealed and saved the world above him. Depth charges thundered nearby, meant only as warnings. Yet each explosion echoed through history. The submarine finally surfaced, battered but silent. The crisis teetered on mercy. In Washington, Kennedy wrestled with a weighted choice: attack and risk annihilation, or trust the quiet channel of diplomacy still open between two terrified nations. Messages crossed oceans faster than understanding. Public threats met secret negotiations. Both sides searched for a trade that could be called peace without tasting defeat. In small American towns, families sat beneath concrete and hope. Radios whispered updates. Children asked if the sky would fall. Adults offered answers they did not believe. On Cuban soil, soldiers awaited orders that might never come. They saw no politics, only foreign ships on the horizon and weapons buried in their homeland. The Pentagon rehearsed every nightmare scenario. Each plan ended with the same conclusion: millions dead within hours, continents in ruin, victory meaningless. Khrushchev sent one final telegram, pleading for reason cloaked in rhetoric. He offered a deal: remove the missiles if America promised never to invade Cuba. Kennedy read the letter in silence. Its tone was desperate yet sincere. He saw the narrow bridge between pride and survival and chose to cross it. At dawn, the world exhaled. Soviet ships turned back. American bombers returned to base. For the first time in days, the planet continued to spin with life instead of ash. In Washington, the night was long and wordless. The president had chosen diplomacy, but the danger remained alive in the dark ocean. One misunderstanding could still ignite the sky. In the Soviet command, tension hummed through wires and static. Every coded message carried the weight of the world. The smallest mistranslation could end history itself. The naval blockade held steady like a drawn sword. Each ship's captain waited for an order that must never come. Silence became the language of restraint. Maps became battlefields of ink and imagination. Advisors traced routes of missiles and hoped with trembling hands. Geography had become destiny. Along the Florida coast, soldiers stare across the ocean toward Cuba. They were close enough to see lightning over Havana and wondered if it might one day glow brighter than the sun. Khrushchev's confidence faded beneath the marble halls of the Kremlin. He had stared into the abyss and seen his own reflection, a man capable of ending everything. In living rooms across America, televisions whispered warnings between commercials. No one heard laughter that week. Children watched cartoons beside parents who watched the clock. In Cuba, people prepared for invasion. They had survived revolution only to become pawns between giants. Fear settled over Havana like the evening rain. Inside the Oval Office, Robert Kennedy proposed a secret exchange: American missiles in Turkey for Soviet withdrawal in Cuba, a hidden bargain that could restore the balance, if pride did not ruin it. The message left Washington wrapped in secrecy and hope. History would never see the ink, only the silence that followed. Sometimes peace is written in invisible letters. When Khrushchev read Kennedy's quiet offer, he felt both relief and humiliation. Pride battled logic. The world waited for which would win. The dawn of October 28 brought stillness to Moscow. Outside, the city moved unaware. Inside, one man's decision would spare every life he could never meet. Khrushchev signed a command to withdraw the missiles from Cuba. The pen moved slowly, a small gesture that turned away from the abyss. In the White House, a messenger delivered the words the world had prayed for. The Soviets would remove their missiles. Kennedy exhaled, and so did humanity. On the blockade line, sailors watched Soviet ships turn away. No one cheered. They only stood in silence, aware they had just witnessed the quietest victory in history. In Cuba, the missiles were dismantled piece by piece. For weeks, locals watched the weapons vanish into ships, leaving behind scars on the earth and relief in the sky. Across the globe, red battle lines dissolved into memory. The confrontation had ended, but fear remained, a reminder of how fragile reason can be. Vasili Arkhipov returned to his family without fame. His quiet defiance had saved billions, yet history stayed silent. True heroes often live in shadows. Newspapers declared the crisis over, but the Cold War had only grown colder. Every leader knew how close they had come to eternal night. For the first time, humankind had faced its own extinction and stepped back. The planet continued to turn, scarred, wiser, and unbearably alive. President Kennedy spoke to a world trembling in relief. His words carried both triumph and warning, that humanity had survived, not through strength but restraint. In Moscow, Khrushchev faced both pride and criticism. To some, he had preserved peace. To others, he had surrendered. Yet history would remember that he chose life over ideology. Quiet diplomacy replaced confrontation. Letters turned to dialogue, and dialogue into understanding. For a fleeting moment, superpowers spoke like men, not enemies. The missiles that once threatened the world became relics of caution. In their shadow, children played, unaware that the ground beneath them had almost burned. Out of fear grew fragile hope. The United States and Soviet Union signed new agreements, promising to think before reaching for the abyss again. Engineers and scientists studied the weapons that nearly destroyed us. They saw genius corrupted by paranoia and technology outpacing wisdom. And yet, life went on. Cities buzzed, children laughed, lovers met beneath streetlights. The world forgot how close it had come to silence. The ocean that once had the spark of destruction now held a silent witness to mercy. Beneath its waves, the ghosts of decisions lingered quietly. Vasili Arkhipov wrote nothing of glory, no confession of the world he saved. His act remained a whisper in military files, a secret hero of reason. Decades later, historians uncovered the truth. One man's decision beneath the ocean had spared humanity above it. Recognition came long after the danger was forgotten. Generations studied the crisis as history, not memory. Teachers spoke of politics and power, but seldom of the heartbeat inside one submarine. The weapons of apocalypse now rest behind glass. Reminders that survival often depends not on nations, but on individuals who choose to pause. The Cuban Missile Crisis ended, but its lessons burned eternal. Leadership is not the absence of fear. It is mastery over it. The weapons remain more silent, more powerful. Humanity still walks the edge it once looked down upon. The difference now is memory and warning. From that October forward, the planet carried a scar invisible but real, a collective awareness that civilization is fragile, yet capable of mercy. Few know his name, yet billions owe him their dawn. Vasili Arkhipov, the man who refused destruction, and in doing so, saved humanity. The sun rose again, indifferent but generous. Humanity had stared into the abyss and stepped back. The light of morning became a quiet miracle. From space, Earth looks peaceful, a fragile marble adrift in blackness. Every border, every conflict, disappears from that height. Perhaps that is where understanding begins. The chambers of power fall silent, but history keeps speaking. It tells us that reason, not weapons, is a true guardian of peace. The story of the Cuban Missile Crisis ends not in destruction, but in survival, a fragile victory written by courage and restraint. If you found this story meaningful, subscribe to Shadow of History, where we bring the moments that shape humanity back to life.